welcome everyone to our August webinar on the topic of digital natives and social media smarts. So excited to be working again with all of our partners, and a special shout out to our buddies over at API Scholars for putting together this wonderful presentation. So the next slide will just give you my contact information. So this is the guy, Dewey Norwood. I'm very fortunate to be one of your co-host here for today. 23 years now in the industry, as my daughter calls it, my Jordan year, as in Michael Jordan year. So we got to make sure that we deliver on a high level here. You'll see my LinkedIn contact information here as well. So feel free to get connected in with me there to continue the conversations with things for today. But excited to be on with you all for today's broadcast. Hey, as we move on, I'm going to spend just a minute talking a little bit about our institution at a very, very basic and a high kind of a level. And then in turn, we're going to get to the real stars of the show. So Wells Fargo, this is just a snapshot from our Wells Fargo Today platform. $1.9 trillion in assets. 1 in 3 households in the United States has a banking relationship with our institution, and a great focus around the work around small business and middle market companies and supporting individuals in those areas. That equates to 70 million customers globally, 70 million. Again, that 1 in 3 statistic is a pretty significant one when we look at the scope and the reach for the work that's happening across our wonderful institution. And so a little bit there about Wells Fargo gives you kind of a thumbnail sketch of some of the things that are happening from our perspective. All right, as we continue on, I think we're going to take a look now at our run of program with things. And so I'll go ahead and get a disclaimer in here relative to today's conference and webinar. So please remember, everyone, that today's webinar is being recorded. So if you choose not to participate in a recorded webinar, now is a great time for you to politely disconnect. And at the same time, we will be sending back the playback details of this webinar within about the next week or so. To anyone that's listening to the playback of this webinar, thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions about any of the content that we've discussed throughout the course of this webinar, please do not hesitate to contact us, and we'll be happy to answer any questions for you at that time. All right, so our recording reminder is done. Listen, it's back to campus. We dropped our son off at his college campus just a couple of days ago. I know many of you all are back on campus. For our high schools that are on, maybe you're still got a couple of days off before you head back, maybe right after Labor Day. But hey, it's back to campus and it's back to business. We've had great summers. We've gotten tons of things done through internships and other areas, but now it's time to get back in the swing of things. And we can't think of a better topic than social media to start things off here for the 2021-2022 academic year. By the numbers, you guys know this is one of my favorite parts of the broadcast. 244. We topped out at 244 right before the broadcast today. And I know we'll have some folks that will continue to join in, but want to give a shout out to our higher education partners. So in order, the Hispanic Scholarship Fund, Point Foundation, and API Scholars finished first, second, and third relative to the most number of referrals. So huge shout out there to all of our higher ed partners for sending so many students. And then for the top universities, we've got the University of North Carolina at Pembroke. So John and his team there at UNCP doing it big. We've got Southern Illinois at Edwardsville, also in the house here with us today. In second place, the University of Nebraska at Omaha was also in that top 1, 2, 3. We have the University of the District of Columbia, so UDC, checking in with us here for today. And then also the University of Southern California, USC, and Bowie State University, one of our wonderful HBCUs, also doing big things. So huge shout out to all of those wonderful universities for sending students to this great broadcast. Hey, what are we going to cover? We're going to be talking about digital natives in the digital world. We're going to be talking about risks. We're going to be talking about PI. We're going to be talking about ransomware. We're going over all of those topics for today. We're going to touch on oversharing, what exactly that means. And we're also going to touch on IoT, or the Internet of Things. And certainly, we're going to be giving you some suggestions from a cybersecurity standpoint that you need to be keeping in mind. Our panelists are subject matter experts in this space. I know they're going to be able to add really great value. Don't forget, scholars, submit questions to us real time. We'll actually see those as they come in. We have probably 25 to 30 questions that have already come in. We're going to integrate some of that content throughout the course of today's presentation, but submit questions to us. And please remember, we will never read your name. But if you've got a question, I guarantee you there's someone else that's joining us or listening to the playback that has that same question. So please go ahead and get those questions submitted to us. And again, we'll be able to utilize those during our Q&A portion. And last but not least, can't have a call around social media without encouraging you to get social with us. So you've got to get social with us. Go ahead and use that hashtag WFC Beyond College and also hashtag hashtag Wells Fargo Life. So again, WFC Beyond College and then hashtag Wells Fargo Life. Those are great ones to utilize here. So if you hear a thought or something today or something jumped out to you, share those hashtags with others and throw those onto your social media handles in those kinds of areas. All right. Hey, as I'm about to pass the baton here, I think we're going to transition now over to, if I'm not mistaken, some data here. So, hey, these are some of the ways that you can connect in with Wells Fargo. So jump in and get connected with us on Twitter and Facebook, and make sure that you get connected in to us via LinkedIn and our YouTube channel there, and also on Pinterest and Instagram. So these are all the ways and all of the channels that you can connect in with our institution. So please go ahead and get connected with us, and certainly give us feedback on the content that we're sharing here for today. And let's just continue to build those followers and make sure we're getting you really, really great information in the days ahead. All right, I think my last item up that I have to do is to jump over to a polling question. And scholars, thank you all so much. As we transition on to the next slide here, you will see some of the breakouts that we have for our different social media platforms. And so, simple question, we simply want to get a sense of the social media platforms that you are using today. So we're going to go ahead and launch that polling question here for us. And we'll give you just a moment here to go ahead and select the platforms that you are using today. Please remember, this one is a multi-select, so you can actually select any of the social media channels or platforms, better yet, that you are using. So, all right, we're going to give it another 5 seconds on this, and then, all right, Nita, let's see what our metrics are looking like here from a reporting perspective, and we'll wait for the drum roll, please, as the numbers are starting to come in. Okay, wow, pretty interesting. A lot of folks on the IG side and on the Facebook side, a lot of LinkedIn users. Okay, a lot of folks that are out there snapping, doing the Snapchat thing, some Pinterest love out there as well, some TikTokers. I heard some of our panelists are really popular on TikTok. We may have to ask them about that today. And also some folks on Twitter, and also, okay, some of the all of the above and none of the above. Pretty interesting there, pretty interesting. So for our panelists, I think this is going to be a good talking point for us to take a look at as we look at all of these different channels that the scholars are connecting in from here for today. All right, that covers off of my items. I quickly want to hand the reins over on the next slide to our wonderful group of panelists. And I've had the privilege of running this particular webinar for about 5 years on this particular topic. And every year, this tends to be one of our most popular topics. And so I want to introduce to you all here now on the next slide, Dr. Nobles, Dr. Calvin Nobles, distinguished professor there at the Illinois Technical College of Computing, doing some really, really great things at Illinois Tech. So really excited to hear more about his background and work in those areas. We've also got our great partner, Dion Galloway, one of our social media engagement partners from Wells Fargo. And then we also have Nicole Stevens on, working in our social media strategy team within the institution. So I love the fact that we've got some external leaders that are doing great work in all kinds of areas, and also some Wells Fargo partners that are connecting in with us here for today. So Dr. Noble, certainly want to give you a moment to say hello, and Dion, the exact same thing. And then Nicole will let you all say hello to everyone and then jump into our wonderful content from here. So let's salute all of our wonderful panelists for today. And Dion, I think we're going to hand the reins to you to get started from here.
Thank you. Go ahead to the next slide. And that's the first time I've heard someone saying I look like Samuel L. Jackson. That is that's interesting. I don't know if that's a compliment or not, but I appreciate it. I'm glad I'm a Grammy-nominated actor, or Emmy. So yeah, jumping into who is a digital native. I'm pretty sure everyone that's on here in some way, shape, or form is a digital native. You know, we grew up with tech. We are comfortable with technology. We depend on technology. Um, so a few things that that play a part is the items that we use and how we use it. So you can look at the list here. Everyone on here has a cell phone. Not too many people have house phones anymore. Social media, we all use it, as you can see. And I'm surprised by the Facebook usage. Like a lot of the times the reports say TikTok is dominating social media platforms in terms of usage. So it's kind of surprising to see that a lot of you are still using Facebook. Um, Spotify is a big one, another one that we use for music. We don't buy CDs anymore. That's a thing of the past. We rather stream now. So Spotify, Apple Music, Pandora is still out there. YouTube Music is still in the play. So definitely something that impacts our lives. And then AI, like I'm sure everyone over here either has an Android or they have an Apple device. So Siri is a big one, as well as Google. What's in your home? Do you have a Google Hub, Google Home, or do you have an Amazon device that comes with Alexa? That could be on your TV, as well as Cortana being on your laptop. I'm sure we pretty much use all these things in some way, shape, or form. And I would even extend this list to car technology, AR, VR, augmented reality, as well as virtual reality. And of course, speaking about smart home integration, you know, when you come in, does your home automatically turn on the lights, your TV cut on, the fireplace ignites, things like this that are we've become comfortable with and expect to positively impact our lives. Moving on to the next slide, you know, the further we advance with the technology, the more risk we need to solve for. So let's take a look at some of those risks that are specific to social media. You know, we all want to grow our networks. We all want to increase our understanding, our knowledge of things in social media, whether it be articles, things that you're clicking on, links that you're clicking on. We want people to know who we are, how we feel about certain things. So as we grow those networks, risks are prevalent and they do exist. I'm sure we've all been exposed or aware of cyberbullying. Password security is a big one. You don't want all of your passwords to look alike. You don't want to overshare your passwords. You know, identity theft is a big one. That's really coming to play as more people are using technology. They're snatching your social security number, your account information, your date of birth, your name, your address, your phone number, pretty much all things that say, I am this person. They are snatching that information and using it to adversely impact you and possibly your future. So you want to be mindful of who you're sharing information with, what you're sharing, and especially how you're sharing it. You know, text messages come through that saying, hey, this is the bank. You know, we see it all the time where Wells Fargo customers are posting in social media. This is clearly not Wells Fargo, but a lot of people still fall for that. So it's definitely something you want to be mindful of. And also risk that not necessarily pertain to what you're sharing, but also how you're portraying your presence, what it looks like on social media. You know, I'm sure a lot of you are aware of the milk crate challenge, and it's probably something you want to avoid due to the injury. But you know, if you're sharing stuff like this, a lot of people are going to see it, which could result in cyberbullying and you know, just not being anything good for you as you move forward. We could go ahead and move on to the next slide. And on this next slide, it's a pretty cool infographic. Not sure many of you know what happens in 60 seconds, and we think a minute is very short time frame, but a lot can happen over the course of the world in terms of what people are doing within 60 minutes on social media. So you have, you know, a lot of you said Facebook. You're not the only one on Facebook. It's 1.4 million people scrolling on Facebook in that minute. So you're joined by a lot of your friends, people you do know, people you don't know, family members. Um, TikTok, 5,000 downloads in a minute. That's incredible. And then people tweeting, and then emails sent. As you can see here, the amount of usage on these online and social media platforms is staggering. Again, which is why it's so important to our daily lives and how we move forward in the future. Pause for a minute there, let you guys take it all in. See if anything jumps out at you. You can definitely type in the question there.
Hey, Dion, this is Dewey. I would be interested. What other trends have you noticed here? Obviously, maybe you're seeing some reductions in other areas. Maybe you're seeing other areas that are increasing. Anything that really surprises you here on these slides, kind of as you're looking at a minute based on the World Wide Web?
Yeah, like I mean, I've never been one to shop online. I don't do a lot of shopping online.
Okay,
I prefer to go in and try on my sneakers if I could get them in the store. It's
yeah,
incredibly difficult now, but if you could get them in the store, I like to go in and try them on. Maybe try out a product or look at the reviews online first, and then I go in and buy the item because I
sure.
don't want to wait for shipping. So these are all things that I do. But yeah, the time spent online shopping is in a minute is incredible. I know a lot of people are opening up to how Instagram allows you to buy items straight through their platform. So you have these platforms now that are becoming marketplaces, and
Sure.
people are taking advantage of those. So that definitely stands out for me.
Pretty interesting, man. So some great topics here. And scholars, don't forget, throughout the course of today's presentation, go ahead and use that Q&A queue. I've seen at least one question come in so far, so let's just keep populating it. Dion, some more content here, man. Please keep rolling.
For sure, for sure. Um, Moving on to the next slide here. So the next two slides are going to talk about hiring and social impacts. So you want to be mindful of how you're using your social media platforms, what you're putting on there, because job seekers are reviewing your social platforms, your content, what you're posting about. If you're being demonstrative, are you cyberbullying? Are you actually being truthful in what's presented on your resume? So you want to be sure you're not the only one, and your friends and family members, even if you let your family members see it, aren't the only ones looking at your content on social media. Your resume is only half the battle. Uh, the second part is your social platform. People are looking at it, and it's becoming ever more important. As you can see, job seekers are lying on their resumes, and corporations are taking note of that. They see this trend. They know what's going on. So just be mindful, be truthful, be honest as much as possible, because it will catch up to you. Um, White space. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this hack. But there's basically a hack where you can type in white space on your resume to include keywords that aren't necessarily showing on your resume. So a lot of employers now are leaving the format where you upload your resume to the format where you have to fill in your resume on their website, on their job portal. So they're trying to find ways to combat that white space hack. So definitely be mindful. And I myself, working in social media for Wells Fargo, I see a number of employees and potential employees uh, commenting in social media, and if I see it, I know, like, our security team and the HR representative, they're taking note of that information as well. So just something to be mindful of, going back to risk involved with how you're posting in social media. You want to go to that next slide for me there. And again, continuing with the hiring and social theme, uh, employers choose not to hire. The employers would choose not to hire certain employees based on what they've provided in social media. As you can see, inappropriate photos, videos, or information. Again, this comes back to, what are you sharing online? Uh, who's taking that information and then sharing it out even more? So your employer might see what you've shared with someone posted in social media, even if you didn't actually do it. So just again, all of this is coming back. You see it all the time. Celebrities posted something from 2015 and it's coming back to bite them because people are taking note of, wow, okay, this guy posted this and they're losing opportunity, uh, job availability. So just be careful. Just be careful what you're doing. And well, before I move it over to Dr. Nobles here, I just want to say that now that you're experts in cybersecurity, which you should be at this point now, there are approximately 500,000 jobs available to combat these type of attacks that you see in terms of like cybersecurity. So be mindful of that. If you choose to go into like a position that combats cybersecurity, the opportunity is there, and it's needed as we grow more and more accustomed to living in a cyber world. We need people to combat attacks and issues that we constantly see or that are on the rise. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Dr. Nobles here, and he'll be able to take it from here.
All right, thank you. And we just continue to flow with the presentation. So next we'll talk about understanding the Internet of Things and the challenges. So in today's environment, we are really what we call hyper-connected, meaning that from our personal devices, which most of us have smartphones, to our cars, our homes, our tablets, whether we're at work, whether we're at school, we are continuously connected to the Internet of Things. And so look at the Internet of Things as being just a connected network that never really shuts down. It really should be called the Internet of Everything, because once you're connected and you're connected to everything. What's unique about that though is we can identify you based on the IP address of your devices. And so because we're so connected, it's very important to make sure what you have connected and how you have it connected. For instance, I can control the temperature of my home from my home when I'm not here. In my car, I can control things about my car when I'm not here. I can start my car from one side of the country, if I'm on the other side of the country, from my phone. And so these things give us really great accessibility and a better life, but there's a dark side to these things. And the dark side of these things is, one, our identity is most likely affiliated with these capabilities through these applications that allow us to have this constant connectivity. And that information is what malicious actors or cyber criminals are really looking for. Your personal information is more valuable than money, because cyber criminals don't want to be associated with transaction of money because it's easy to track money. However, they could sell your personal information on the dark web with, collectively with other people data that they take and make a very lucrative living doing that. And we're seeing that. And that's why we have to understand the dark side to these things. And this is presentation, what I'm talking about is not to scare you, but to make you aware. And because of making you aware, now we need to start caring, right? Because like Dion said earlier, your identity is very important. And because we are on social media and we have access to these things, people watch your social media tells a story. And it tells your digital story. And you have to be careful and make sure you're telling the story that you want to tell. Okay, next slide. And so when we look at these things, we have to look at how we are connected. And then we have to start thinking about how secure are we? 90% of devices has at least one piece of personal information. And you got to think about if that information is stored in the cloud, it's most likely going to be stored in multiple clouds that you're not aware of, because companies have redundant and backup capabilities. And so these are the things sometimes you have to ask when people requesting your personal information. What do you need it for and why? And that's why I recommend for you all to create ghost accounts. And what a ghost account is where an account where it's a trash account. That's all it is. It's where you provide a fake email address, not to provide your real email address, if that makes sense. And the reason you do that is because you don't want people associating your email address that you use on a daily basis for important and business matters with something that's not important to you. And then 6 out of 10 devices use interfaces which are vulnerable. And that's very important too. And we talk about using weak credentials. Make sure your passwords are strong. and make sure you're not using the same password. All my passwords are 12 characters or more. I use a password manager, and I have to authenticate my password manager through my phone. So I would encourage all of you to do that, because what it does, it takes away the worrying of what my password is. If I forget my password, I don't worry about it. I just go into my password manager, go into my locker, pull up my password, and then enter my password, and then I'm able to access whatever I'm trying to access. And then we talk about 70% of devices unencrypted. So for instance, if you're in an airport or you're in a library or you're just out in public and using a public network, you want to make sure that you are using a VPN, a virtual private network, where you're creating a secure tunnel. So you're going from point A to point B. Can people see that information inside of that secure tunnel? Yeah, but it's a challenge. It's a challenge for them to do that. And only the more sophisticated people are able to do that. And by the time they get work through the process of doing that, it's a moot point. And so that's why it's very important to make sure you are not out losing information in the public network, especially when you are banking or you're doing something where you're sending sensitive information or sensitive data. So you want to make sure that if you're doing it from your phone, that you are using a VPN and that your phone is up to date and that you're doing everything you can to make your network more secure. Because at the end of the day, an unsecured network provides a hacker with unimpeded access to your network, to your device. And so that's pretty much like leaving a window in your car open when you're downtown. I stay up in Chicago. When you're downtown Chicago, and you know when you come back, you left that window open, things are not going to be the same in your car. So how do you prevent that? You roll up the windows and you lock the door. Same thing with our devices. We make sure our devices are updated, and we make sure that we're using a VPN, and we make sure our antivirus on our phones are working as well. All right, next slide. And so here we take a look at data breaches, and we see that data breaches are really very harmful to organizations. And these data breaches might be happening to organizations, but they're personal data breaches happening to us every day. We get fake phone calls every day. Some of us get fake SM short messages every day. Most of you call them instant messages. And we get them on every platform, whether it's Facebook, whether it's to your phone, whether it's to LinkedIn or Instagram, whatever you may see. So the most important thing here is to understand that you have to do whatever you need to protect yourself. And so a lot of times I really limit where I do my business. I try to do my business at home, and so a place that I know I'm gonna keep secure. I try not to use public Wi-Fi. I try not to use Wi-Fi in the airport, or when if I'm on mass transit or whatever it may be. I try not to use those Wi-Fi connections because I know better. And so I hope that you all take this into account, because remember, a data breach is a significant blow to an organization. And the reason being because typically when a cyber criminal go into an organization, they're not going to get 1 or 2 records. They're going for the masses. I mean, millions. And so they're trying to build up how many records they can get access to. So it's good that we have in this presentation today, because over the last couple of years, 2 to 3 years, and sometimes some researchers say back to 5 years, we have seen colleges and universities become a hotspot for data breaches. And the reason why, take a school like the University of Michigan or the University of Maryland, where you got 20,000 to 30,000 students at one pop. That's a lot of personal information that you're getting on a student. And the thing about it, they would get your record, and you might not be making a whole lot of money now as a student, but they will hold on to that information. Because guess what's not going to change? Your social security number and your birthday. They will hold on to that information, and they will wait, and they will sell that information to somebody, because eventually you're going to get a credit card. Eventually you're going to get a job making a lot of money and make some good money. And so that's how cyber criminals think. And so that's why we have to be very careful, even at universities now, and safeguarding you think about the professors and the staff and the administrators there, but we think about our students too. We owe them a responsibility to protect their information. So a data breach can be extremely harmful. When we talk about the Equifax data breach that happened a few years ago, that data breach cost that company upwards of over $200 million, and they are still counting how much that is eventually going to cost them, because they're not done yet. Because remember, the regulatory fines haven't came out on that one, and that's going to be very extensive. So when we talk about data breaches, you got to think about how do they happen. Data breaches happen nowadays what we're seeing, there's something called cognitive hacking. And the reason I'm calling it cognitive hacking is because cyber criminals are playing on our weaknesses, meaning they'll send me something very related to what that's real. For instance, hey, Calvin, you need to go ahead and approve your life insurance. They might be seeing me on LinkedIn where I just got a new job. The school sent out an announcement that I just took over as a department chair. So guess what? I am in the process of updating my life insurance and all my administrative documents at the school. But I know the school should not be sending it via my personal cell phone. But if you're not paying attention, you could click on it. And when you click on it, what happens, it can have malicious code in it, and it's going to download in the background, executing files that we're not even seeing. So we're thinking that nothing is happening. So these things happen completely oblivious to us. And guess what? All of a sudden, they have the capability to see everything that I'm doing, everything I'm typing in on my phone. And then they can assume, at that point, essentially go in and take over my accounts and take over my identity from that aspect. So that's something to think about. So
Dr. Nobles, this is
yes.
Dewey. I've got to jump in on this one just briefly here. You know, we're looking at a thumbnail sketch, and it's amazing information that you've shared over the last 15 years. Let's extrapolate this out another 2 years, another 5 years, another 10 years. Will we see these trends reduced, or do you think that we'll actually see them increase even more, sir?
All right, so let's put this in dollar amounts, right?
Yeah.
So research is telling us right now in 2021, the cost of global cybercrime is going to reach $6 trillion.
Wow.
So if you were to put that in the form of GDP, if I'm not mistaken, it'll be the third or fourth GDP, only behind the United States and China.
Yep.
So think about that. So you're going to see these attacks continue to increase. And another reason you're going to see these attacks continue to increase is because it's very difficult for companies to train employees about cognitive hacking, because what we're doing today is not effective because the game is always changing. So we, in other words, you hear people say, we're building the airplane as we're flying it. That's true. Are we shooting at a moving target? That's true, because cyber criminals can maneuver faster than we can build engineering solutions to stop them from what they're doing. And so it's kind of like they have the strategic advantage, but the one way we can fight back is like what we're doing today, is increasing our awareness and understanding what they're doing to us and trying to fool us and deceive us to get our personal information.
Wow.
Great
information, sir. Great information. Please, I know we've got more to cover off on, and I'm going to put it again, that reminder to all of our participants. The Q&A is getting hot. It's warming up. Let's keep those questions and comments coming in here.
All right, next slide. Next slide. Next slide. All right, there we go. So I love this. Can you go back to the next slide? The previous slide.
May have to go back just 2 more. You can tell we're excited about our contact, and just back 1 more. There we go.
Right, and this. So the next slide coming up, there's a little quiz in there about password. That's on the next slide, but I'll go ahead and talk to it. And so the question is, how often do you change your password? And nowadays, a lot of us are getting warnings from our banks, from our schools, from different businesses that we're doing business with, telling us that there's been a compromise or possible compromise, and they're telling you to change your password. And so my thing is, when you get that notification, change your passwords. But remember, just don't have an email and a password. Look for that company's 2-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication, where you have to verify. I know can you go to the next slide? On most of my email accounts, my Facebook account, my Twitter account, you have to enter a password that comes to my phone. So if you don't have my phone and you're trying to access my account, unfortunately, you won't be able to do that. And so I encourage all of you to do the same, because by doing so, what you're doing, you are impeding a bad guy from getting access to your information. And so that's what we're really trying to do at the end of the day. We're trying to lock the windows of our door. We're thinking of it in terms of cybersecurity to keep people out. And we're trying to make sure that we're protecting our information. So, but that question is, how long should you change? How often should you change your password? That is, I tell people that is a personal choice. But if you know your passwords are short, like for instance, 8 characters or less, you might want to change your passwords more often. You don't want to use the same password for all of your accounts. Again, I encourage all of you to get a password manager, password locker, lock your passwords in there, and set 2-factor authentication. Even for you to access your passwords, you have to go through that process. It's aggravating, but it's safe, and it's an effective way to keep your passwords locked up. And the same thing for all of your accounts. If somebody's notifying you that your account has been hacked or your account has been utilized somewhere else, please take notice to that. For instance, I just moved to Chicago. When I logged in the first time, I got all kind of notifications that there was someone in Chicago trying to access my accounts. It was coming to my phone. I had to go in there and click and say, that's me. And so by doing so, it let the entity know, the business owner of the business know that it was Calvin Nobles and versus someone else. So when you see those things, take those seriously. If you see that someone's trying to access your account in California and you happen to be in New York, you know something's wrong. What I would advise you to do is go and change the password. And while you're changing the password, go in there and set 2-factor authentication as well, so nobody cannot maneuver into your account without going through some type of authentication process. Okay, next slide. And I do believe at this point I'm passing it off, right? Or you want me to talk to this one?
Hey everyone, this is Nicole. So we're going to transition a little bit from the content that Dion and Dr. Nobles were sharing. And now you know what not to do and how to protect your information. And I'm going to just touch a tiny bit more on what not to do, and then kind of get into what you can and should be doing. So just to wrap up some of the no's, like they both mentioned, right? Content lives forever online. You all know this, you're all digital natives. And 93% of recruiters will look at your social profiles before they even call you for an interview. So you're essentially being interviewed before you even realize it. So that's why it's so important to follow the guidance that they recommended and take note of some of the bullets on this slide. So we did have a question come in before the event about getting too personal. And someone said, hey, I like this kind of music and this kind of lifestyle. Is that okay to share? Or do I need to essentially edit my online persona in order to pacify, recruiters and make them want to interview me? Or do I need to sort of hide part of who I am? That is a phenomenal question. And you really shouldn't hide any part of your personality because you're worried about what recruiters or hiring managers will think. You probably shouldn't post like explicit lyrics every day, but if you want to talk about artists you like, or join groups that talk about, whatever kind of music, that's totally fine, because more and more companies are looking to encourage and increase and welcome and support diversity, equity, representation, and inclusion. Do we? I think I got them all. If I missed one, let me know. And so we want people of all different kinds, of backgrounds and who bring different stuff in. Like I like country. Most people don't these days, right? So that's okay. So feel part of the presentation where we sort of look at someone's LinkedIn profile and then talk about how you can set one up for yourself. So if we can pop over to slide 19, that would be awesome. So I pulled someone who works at Wells Fargo as an example. Of course, you can also connect with any of us and feel free to check out our profiles. But for this case, I pulled a new leader at Wells. Her name is Suki Sani, and she recently joined the company. And we're just going to walk through her profile as an example of how to set up yours so that you can start networking, build your network, and then really use what you know to help meet people in your industry, you know, make those connections, and eventually, hopefully, help yourself and or others get an internship or a job. So the very first thing to notice is there's no cover photo, and that's that rectangle behind the profile image. I don't have a statistic on this, but I would say probably roughly 80% of people do not have a personalized cover photo. This is something that really helps your profile stand out. So when people visit your page, immediately the first thing they see is that huge rectangle. So instead of having the default gray, which is lovely, you can go to Canva, you can go to Photoshop. There are a ton of free options that will provide the dimensions that you need, and you can create something that's unique to you. So whether it's a picture from somewhere that you recently visited that you took, that could be a conversation starter with people, or, you know, whether it's an art from your favorite artist, or a screen grab from a social media post you did that you're really proud of. You can really personalize this as much as you want. Just keep in mind to not make it too busy so that it distracts from your profile photo and all the information below. But that's a really easy way to make your profile stand out that not a lot of people utilize. Going down next, her profile photo, it shows her whole face, it's approachable, and LinkedIn profiles with photos get 21 times the amount of views and 36 times the amount of messages as photos without. So this is pretty basic. You probably, you know, all have photos. Those of you, let's see, 63% of you, which is amazing, who have LinkedIn profiles set up. Just ensure that your entire face shows. It's not a cropped photo from like a party or something with a lot of people, like a wedding. Have it be just you. You can take a portrait mode on your iPhone, and it'll look great on LinkedIn. I have a friend who did that, and I genuinely thought it was a professional photo. So you don't need to go invest in this. It can be really simple, but just straightforward, smiling, and that'll get you off to a great start. And then moving down for your title, if you're, you know, in high school or in college, of course, you don't have a professional job title yet. So you can title it your internship if you have one. So just simple X intern, so engineering intern or marketing intern at XYZ company, or you can title it something like engineering student at, you know, Howard University, or marketing student at, you know, University of Maryland. It's just quick and simple so people get an idea of what you do. This is not the place to flood with keywords. It's just short and sweet, so people can find you and see if they want to then click on your profile. Moving over to the right-hand side, you can see Wells Fargo is listed as the employer, so you can put your college or university here. If you're interning, you could also put the company at which you're interning, and then put your college underneath. So always fill out your profile as completely as possible, and we'll get to the reason for that in just a minute. And then underneath that, you will see message and more. You can set up your profile to have either message, connect, or follow as that main blue icon, so that when people go to your profile, they'll see, okay, one click, I can message Suki, or one click, I can follow Dion, or one click, I can connect with Dewey. I would recommend having connect, because then you'll be connected both ways with someone. If they just follow you, you don't get a notification, and you're potentially missing out on that networking and that connection and relationship building with people. So that's that. Moving over to the right-hand side of the slide, reach out to Suki for, here's where you may not have much to say, now, but certainly if you feel comfortable, go ahead and fill this out. If you're looking for volunteer opportunities or consulting opportunities, if you're looking to, maybe consult in the area that you're studying, people are always looking for interns and volunteers. So go ahead and fill that part out as well. And then for the about section, the number one thing I tell people at all levels, from C-suite to interns, is write this in first person. So it's not the end of a book cover. And if you write a novel, you can go ahead and have that written in third person. But this is written by you for the reader, for the person who's looking to learn more about you. So go ahead and say, I, XYZ, and don't write, Nicole XYZ, because then it looks like someone else wrote your profile for you. And this is really your place to connect with people. So you want to make it as genuine as possible, being that it's an online connection. And so here's your place to sort of break up who you are. And this is a great example because it's not too long, but it really gives you an example of who she is. So a storyteller at heart, I'm deeply passionate about building integrated communication strategies that drive outcomes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So who are you? What do you love? What are you studying? What's a project you're really proud of? Where's somewhere you've traveled that's, changed your perspective? This is your opportunity to make that first impression on someone and entice them to reach out to you to connect. So feel free to really kind of have fun with this section. Keep it professional, try to keep it pretty short and sweet, but really express yourself and talk about what's important to you and what you're passionate about. If you have any websites you'd like to link to, and we'll get to this in the Q&A, but if you have a portfolio, if you've done marketing for any websites, etc., feel free to drop that link in this section. And then here's where you can list your keywords. So recruiters, when they're looking for interns or full-time employees, they do keyword searches on LinkedIn quite often. So go ahead and drop in anything that you feel comfortable speaking to. If someone were to ask you, using this profile as an example, give me an example of using strategic communications, and you couldn't speak to it, it shouldn't go in this section. But if you had a project or you did an internship and you can talk about where you use strategic communications, for example, then go ahead and drop those keywords in here. Simple, just like this. You can list specialties, separate each word with a comma, and that will increase your chance of being shown to recruiters who are looking for people with your skill set. One last thing to note on this slide before we keep going is back on the left-hand side, back to the message and more section on the bottom left. When you connect with people on LinkedIn, say you loved what Dion shared, like I did, and you want to talk about sneakers, and you're like, I'm a sneakerhead and I don't know anything about sneakers, so I can't keep going. But you really want to connect with Dion and learn more about what an engagement role in social media is like. Instead of, if that said connect, which it would under more, instead of hitting connect and just sending him a connection request, I strongly recommend, again, anyone from C-suite down to interns, hit more, and a few options will come up. And one of those is personalized invite. And that's what you want to click every single time you send a connection request. So when you're looking for other students to connect with, or you're looking to connect with professors or other people in your field or industry that you're looking to go into, always personalize the invite. Even if you know the person or you were connected by a mutual friend. And it can be as simple as one line, hey, great to meet you at X event. Look forward to staying connected and learning more about, technology or something like that. And the reason is that sets you apart because most people simply send connection requests. So by taking that extra 15 seconds and sending that personalized note, you're elevating yourself and you're opening the door for them to respond and start that conversation. So instead of just connecting with them and both having each other's LinkedIn profiles, you actually are starting that direct message and inviting them to reply and kind of get to know them more. So highly recommend personalizing invites every single time you send a connection request. So we can pop to the next slide. So this is down towards the middle of the profile. You can see the feature section. This is another way to really make yourself stand out as a student, because most people don't have very active LinkedIn profiles. So I'm very impressed that 63% of you have LinkedIn profiles going. That is phenomenal. So if you have projects, if you have papers, if you have social media posts that you've done, if you have websites you've helped work on in any way, that's the place to drop the link in your featured section. Most people do not have a featured section. I don't have a stat, but I spend at least 2 hours every day on LinkedIn and can tell you this is not common yet. So if you're comfortable sharing your work, which hopefully you're really proud of what you're working on, and assuming you don't have any client confidentiality, that's really important to check on before sharing things on your profile. But assuming that's all okay to share, go ahead and drop a link or two, or 3 or 4 into this section so people can really get a feel for what you're able to do and what kind of work you could produce for them as a volunteer, an intern, or a full-time employee. We can go to the next slide. And then this is the bottom of the profile. So it's really important to fill out the entirety of your profile. And the reason is you never know where other people might have commonalities with you. So if you say, hey, Dewey, you went to X school, I also went to X school, or I'm going to X school now, and you guys can talk about that. If you volunteer at the same place, hey, we both volunteered at, Girls on the Run. Oh my gosh, I did too. This was my experience. There are so many times that people have reached out and said, hey, you listed X on your profile, and that's begun a conversation. So definitely fill out experience with all of your internships and volunteer experiences. Don't be afraid to list things. If you just work somewhere for a month, that's okay. List that and then put one sentence saying what you did. Definitely fill out your education and what you're working on. And then if you have any licenses or certifications, you certainly might not, but if you get any during school, definitely go ahead and list those. And then I would also say engage with people. So if you have other people in your class who are setting up LinkedIn profiles, go ahead and connect and build your network up as much as you can. And then you can look at their connections, right? And offer, hey, if you see anyone that I'm connected with, please feel free. I'm happy to make a connection. And then you can really start building your network. So only 1%, which is crazy, of people who have LinkedIn profiles actually post. So posting is a great way, on top of cover photos, great titles, great about sections, and then that featured section, to really set yourself apart. So I will end, I think, with the next slide. So going off of that, when you get comfortable to post, again, this is going to set you apart tremendously and really start opening doors to expand your network. So I'm going to totally go out of order and start at the bottom. The best way to start, if you're not comfortable posting yet on LinkedIn, or if you're in a Facebook group for STEM majors or something like that, or for your industry, is leaving responses on others' comments. So go ahead and kind of give back to others who are posting and engage with them and say, great point, XYZ, I had this experience, or ask a question to what they're posting. So, you're recommending ABC, what do you think about XYZ? Just like you all are sending in these awesome questions. Hey, Dr. Nobles is talking about, cybersecurity. How often should I change my password? Go ahead and ask questions like that on content that other people are posting. It shows that you're engaged. That activity will show up on your profile so people can see that you're active. And it's just a great way to get started and start to build your connections. Then you can also talk about things you did in the community, your volunteer experiences. Talk about, you know, if you do a Run for Your Life event, talk about how that felt, talk about the process, talk about, you know, any part of the event that you feel comfortable sharing, or talk about a school project you did and what you learned, or, you know, about group projects and what you learned about working with group projects, which are always interesting. You know, share content from people in the industry. So you can comment on it, or you can actually hit share and then add your own commentary to it. So I'll end at the top with small pieces. Don't feel obligated to share a groundbreaking piece of content if you're posting or if you're commenting on someone else's. It doesn't need to be life-changing or earth-shattering. Try to get beyond, you know, great point and really add something of your own, because you all have unique perspectives and backgrounds and experiences that others don't. So don't be afraid, like, oh, I'm just a student. That's not a thing. You have so much to share. You have so much knowledge and experience, and you just need to start slow and then get comfortable sharing your commentary. And it's amazing how quickly you'll build your network once you find your niche and get started on LinkedIn or, you know, Facebook groups or things like that. So I think we can go to the next slide. And I will take a break from talking.
All right. Yes, Nicole,
Q&A.
we're going to give you a break from here. But before we do that, I want to salute you. I want to salute Dr. Nobles. I want to salute Dion on solid content. So a couple of things in our rules here. We've gotten a number of questions that are come in. I'm just going to give these to you all rapid fire and may ask for one person to comment on it. We'll try to get as many in as we can around things, but we're also going to continue to take more questions in live. And scholars, again, remember, we are not going to read your name for anything that you submit, but I guarantee you, if someone's got a question, I guarantee you there's someone else out there that has that same question. So I'm going to start with one that's just a basic kind of one that we're getting from lots of folks. Everybody starts from zeros with followers, with anything, whether it's likes, anything. A lot of scholars are very interested in, how do you build more followers? How do you actually get more folks interested in the content that you are sharing? And I think this could apply across any of the channels. So I want to open that up for you all panelists.
I'll kick it off and open it up to the other two. The first thing is to find your niche, right? Decide what you want to be posting about. If it's really keying people into student life in general, that's awesome. If it's being a woman in STEM, that's awesome. But figure out what you are knowledgeable about and where you can add value and what you like talking about. If you are super knowledgeable about, you know, technology, but you don't enjoy it, that's not your niche. So once you decide upon that, consistency is really key. If you post something genius once a month, people are not going to be looking for your content, and it's just not a great way to present yourself. So if you can post, you know, twice a week, even once a week, really build that consistency so people know, okay, I want to go check, you know, Dewey's profile because he talks about scholars. He is on point for financial education. My man, like, I know he's going to have some good info for me. So give people that reason to want to visit your profile. And then the third part of that is really what I just spoke about. So engage back, right? You're not going to become an overnight sensation. And if you are, like, call me up. But once you post and give this really great information, you expect and you hope that people start engaging back, liking it, commenting on it, and sharing it. So reciprocate with people in your niche, in your industry, who are writing interesting things. And that can also help you determine, hey, this person posted about X, I want to post my take on it. And it can help you get ideas for what to post yourself. So those are the three portions I would recommend.
Perfect. Nicole, great information there. Dion, Dr. Nobles, anything you want to add on to that topic? And Dion has millions of followers, y'all. Let's get that on the record, on the recorded line here. He has millions upon millions of followers. So I know he's got something to say.
Man, if only that were true. No, I would say Nicole really did a good job of, and encapsulating everything that's important to growing your followers. So I am going to say great job, Nicole, and nothing to add.
All right, I like that. I like that. Dr. Nobles will let you close it out on this topic if there's anything to add on there. Like you said, she covered pretty well.
The only thing I would add is that just remember that on LinkedIn, 99% of the people there are user of content. Only 1% of the people there are developers of content. So if you get in the habit of developing content, you in that 1%. It's easier to get people to, request to be your friends or to join your network that way. The other thing is look at groups you want to join. For instance, if you're interested in cybersecurity, join some of the cybersecurity groups out there. There's a lot of great content that's passed in those groups. There's a lot of great professional help aids and things like that are passed in that group. So I encourage all of you to find out, what groups you want to join and join them.
Very good. Very good. I know we have scholars on that are interested in career opportunities. I'm reading a headline that ran across Fox Business here earlier this week, and it simply reads, Microsoft and Amazon meet with White House as 500,000 cybersecurity jobs are unfilled today. Dr. Nobles, maybe we start with you on this one. Let's make the pitch to those folks that are maybe they're not an MIS major, maybe they're not a CS major, but it sounds like there's just a lot of opportunities in these kinds of spaces. Can you just talk about what you're seeing from an academic perspective, and then how scholars can really, capitalize on some of these career opportunities that are out there?
Absolutely. So the biggest thing I'm seeing right now, a lot of employers are asking for experience. You got to understand when somebody's coming out of college, chances are they might not have a whole lot of experience other than some interns or maybe some summer jobs. And so we are trying to work with organizations to get them to understand that, that experience requirement that they're asking for is hindering us from people from getting into the field. And the other thing is that, there's a lot of talk and a lot of discussion going on in this cybersecurity realm asking about, do I need to get a degree or do I need to get a certification? And there's a lot of people that put the two against each other. My approach to this is we are too many hundreds of thousands of job vacancies to have that conversation. We're looking for everybody to get into the field, whether you got a degree, a certification, self-taught, self-trained, apply, because we're at the point now where we can't turn people down right now. I had a gentleman who retired as a business manager in healthcare. He wanted to get in cyber. He said, where should I start? I said, healthcare. That's an industry that needs a lot of cybersecurity attention. So you already know the industry. So why not look to enhance your cybersecurity skills through a couple classes, a certification, and then reapply to be a cybersecurity analyst?
So get started. There's lots of opportunities out there. It sounds like that's pretty cut and dry here.
Absolutely. And LinkedIn is a great place to meet people that can really help you. There are people that created programs specifically for people who don't have any experience. What they're trying to do is help you work on things at home, like building a virtual network and knowing what a virtual network is, attaining skills like that so that you can include that on your resume. There's a lot of different things you can do, like go out and learn the different tools that cyber analysts do use. You can learn those free. You can download them free. They're open source. You download those tools, learn how to use them. Guess what? That's a skill you taught yourself. You can add it to your resume. Now, the truth of the matter is, if you don't know how to use that capability, don't put it on your resume because they are going to ask you.
Yeah. If you raise your hand in class, you best know the answer. I think that's the right approach around this thing. All right, I think we're going to pivot over a little bit. Also see that we have Ed now here with us. Ed, we appreciate you being on and helping us to staff some of the Q&A. Man, we got plenty of stuff coming in here. It's interesting. A couple of notes around folks that are just getting off on the beginning phases of their career. So Nicole, maybe this one again is to you. How do you spotlight things, let's say, focusing on your LinkedIn example, when you don't have a lot of technical experience now, or you don't have a lot of industry experience? How do you spotlight other things that are significant that will stand out for employers as they're running across your resume, your background, your digital footprint, so to speak?
Yeah, and I think Ed can probably add some light here too.
Please.
This is where we go back to that featured section or back to the about section.
Yeah.
Use those keywords, right? What industry are you looking to get into? I'm listing technology and marketing because my brain is tired and those are the only two I can think of. Certainly there are many more, and I know y'all are from disciplines and all sorts of majors, but go ahead and list those words. Go ahead and list those projects, right? Recruiters understand if they're looking for interns, if they're looking for, your first role out of school, they know that you're not going to have a ton of experience and they don't expect you to, right? They're realistic. They do this all day, every day. And recruiters spend an average of 6 seconds looking at resumes. That stat is years old, and I know a bunch of recruiters and it is still accurate. So LinkedIn is like the fun version of your resume. So this is where you have the opportunity to share your keywords, but get past that, right? Share those projects, connect with people, and don't be afraid to ask people for recommendations. So when you wrap up your internship, or you finish a volunteer experience, or you just crushed a group project, ask your peers, ask your professors at the end of a course, hey, I loved your course, XYZ was great. Would you be comfortable writing me a recommendation? That's a great way to also elevate yourself and show other people's confidence in you by them writing a recommendation for you. So don't be afraid to ask people to do that. Ed, is there anything that you would add to that?
Yeah, I think you summed it up pretty well. I think it was Dewey who mentioned earlier this idea of going out and sort of being proactive in some courses and sort of training materials. I think it's very, very undervalued, the idea of demonstrating your enthusiasm to learn. So I think there's a lot of ways that you can sort of indicate that you're excited to learn, you're excited to sort of, jump into any opportunity that comes your way. And I think demonstrating that you're willing to learn and take training courses and things like that, willing to do that on your own sort of accord, I think goes a long way. So I would say those are pretty good indicators of
That's a great point. And there are a lot of free resources out there for courses. So you don't necessarily need to spend anything or invest anything in order to get some of these trainings and certifications that Ed's talking about. For example, Google Analytics, that's free. If you're in marketing or looking to get into social, that's a great one to have. And it doesn't cost anything. And then you can go ahead and list that on your profile. The other thing is someone sent in a question about a portfolio. You certainly can do that if you are sort of in the marketing space, or you write a lot and you're an English major and you really want a place to highlight your content. You can host it on LinkedIn, you can host it on Medium, you can do Squarespace. Those are all free, but don't feel obligated to do that, right? You are in college and people know that and they have a certain expectation level. So even having these active LinkedIn profiles is going to be impressive, and you're going to get noticed by filling them out and using it actively.
Very good. Very good. All right, we're going to cover off on these rapid fire, and panelists, I'm going to ask each of you all, the person that thinks they know the answer to this one the best, we'll take them, because we're going to try to get as many as we can in here between now and our ending point in about 20 minutes. I'm just going to bring it up. Let's say that we have scholars on today that have run into a challenge. Maybe they were doing some things in social media that are not appropriate, and now they want to get a clean break and start afresh and anew. A, how do you go? Is that possible to do it? And then kind of B, what are the steps that you need to follow to, maybe end things that were not good behaviors before and then start focusing on the right kinds of things going forward? So panelists, want to open this one up, please.
This is Calvin Nobles here. One thing that I would recommend if you want to make a change, I would, for instance, if I want to say I want to do this on Facebook, I will cancel that Facebook profile and let Facebook know I want to cancel and I want to remove it. And then I start another one where I'm actually demonstrating the practices that I want to be more positive on with my online behavior.
Okay. So it's that simple. It's literally getting that point of time where, hey, wasn't doing quite right. We're gonna cut this one off. we're gonna erase the board and start from scratch. Is that a fair way to put it?
Absolutely. I mean, people make mistakes, and we have to understand that. But I think it's very important that you make that disconnect, and that when you come back online with the new account, that you are demonstrating the behavior you need to demonstrate. And that also means you might not have the same friends or the same connections. You might need to look for better connections.
There you go. There you go. That whole association piece. And that takes me actually to the next item here. Panelists, I'm going to hear from each of you on, and I want you on this one too. Yes or no in connecting with family on social media, and yes or no about talking about family related items on social media. I know somewhere Gary Sims is listening in and saying, I want to answer this one, but I want to hear from every one of you all. Yes or no again. How you share personal items, and yes or no, do you even connect with famo, as they call it, on social? Let's talk about it.
I keep my family in a separate conversation to the side, a private message environment. That's about the extent of my engagement with my family, to be honest. God bless them.
Okay. All right, Ed, we appreciate that. We appreciate that. Nicole, I see you smiling too.
So funny. Mine is very limited. I rejected my poor mom's Facebook request years ago. Bless her heart. We keep it to texting, but I will say I'm connected with my dad, who is in the education field, on LinkedIn, and actually did a post about him a few months ago. And he did not remember that we were LinkedIn connections and called me and said, I got a notification. What does this mean? Wow. I said, Dad, I posted about you. So I would personally, I keep it to LinkedIn only.
Okay, fair enough. Dr. Nobles, Dion, got to hear from you all on this one too.
I keep it to the minimum. I'm not going to lie to you. I will. So I've accepted pretty much all my family as friends on Facebook, but I also don't really post on Facebook. So I'm strategic in how I move with the acceptance of family and friends. So you'll probably be a little more active on other platforms, knowing that my mom, my dad, my sisters, everyone's looking at what I'm posting on Facebook. So yeah, I'm a little more strategic in how I move.
Okay. But very intentional. Sounds very, very intentional there.
For sure.
Okay. Dr. Nobles, we'll let you wind this one out. Yes or no on the family connection, sir?
On some of them, I do connect with some of them. Some of them I do not, because I look at their social media page, like their Facebook page, and if I see behavior that doesn't resonate with me or doesn't illustrate who I am or what I stand for, I don't make the connections. One of the things that my family do, we have a Facebook page where you can get messages where family members can go in and we can talk to each other. But I do on Facebook, I do post positive messages. I do post inspirational things on my family members page, and we share that type of relationship because life gets hard sometimes, and it's very important to know that as family we are cheerleaders for each other.
There you go. I like it. I like it. So scholars, participants, and thank you all panelists. Some good food for thought there. And you may come on different sides of the equation, but I love what you talked about there with association, Dr. Nobles. And so, hey, if you're connected with someone and they're not maybe doing things in the right kind of a way, you may need to find a way to get disconnected in some way, shape, or form. So I think that's an important piece. Dr. Nobles, a couple of follow-up questions came in around some of the password security pieces and also the VPN. Can you take another 90 seconds and maybe re-emphasize the importance of those types of platforms? And then, is there a cost associated with it? Is it free? Do I use the password generator that's on websites to make passwords for me? Do I come up with my own? Give us 90 seconds on that password piece, sir.
Sure. So for my password manager, I use a very popular password manager. I don't want to, throw it out there because I don't no free advertising here. But just do your research, because you can get password managers, antivirus, and cloud storage all together and from one company, and it's relatively cheap. So I strongly recommend that for college students. I recommend it for my family members, and I even use it myself because and it also provides you a VPN. It's very affordable. So make sure you do that for yourself. The other thing I would tell you is make sure you back up your systems. You in school, so make sure you're storing your data, your information on an external hard drive or in the cloud when you have access to it. Because guess what? If you happen to have a ransomware attack and they say that they're going to wipe your system, you got all your information backed up and stored. You can restore the operating system later and keep going.
Okay, very good, very good. All right, Dion, on the lighter side, man, we've had some requests that have come in relative to that shoe wall that's back there, man. We're trying to determine if this is a legitimate image or whether this is something you found online. And so, and also what's your favorite pair of kicks that are back there, man? That's a 1-2 punch.
Man, that's a good question. This is real, and I can pick up and interact with it, as you can see there. So very real. I am a Jordan 1 guy. I wear a lot of Jordan 1s.
Okay.
So I would probably say that's my my favorite pair of sneakers.
All right. So good stuff there, man. So all right, pretty simple there. Pretty simple.
For sure.
All right, let's see here. And folks, a couple of side items here, and then I think we're going to go the direction of maybe taking one, maybe 2 more questions, and I'm going to ask panelists, each of you all, to share maybe a closing thought as well. But I did drop everyone's LinkedIn contact information in. Ed will drop yours into the system here in a moment so folks can see that as well and go ahead and get connected in. So please go ahead and start making those outreaches to folks very, very directly. And then in addition, we did send over or dropped into the chat the survey links. Huge shout out to Barbara Scotland, our wonderful meeting and events partner who's helped us with today's broadcast. Please go ahead and click that link that we dropped into the chat. Take a moment, give us feedback. We're very, very interested in getting your thoughts and comments around any of the content that we've delivered and the things that we've shared off here for today. All right, I'm going to jump back over to our live Q&A. Password manager, a lot of pieces around those. Kind of touched on the ransomware piece a little earlier.
One scholar had a pretty good question about what would happen if our information is leaked. What steps should we take to get it back? And then it was referencing not just like an Apple password, but maybe like your social security number and date of birth. So
okay.
I'd be curious to see what Dr. Nobles thinks about that, if he has any steps in mind.
That's a good one, Dion. I think it's probably a good one to end on. So please, let's end with that one.
Absolutely. So the one thing I recommend, first thing to do is lock down your credit. And the reason I say that is because you don't know the extent that this person is trying to operate, what they're trying to do with their data. Lock down your credit. That way they can't purchase something or make purchases on your behalf without you being there. The second thing is then investigate what information they actually try to get, what account, and then talk to the company about what happened to see if that information was actually leaked. But always assume, always assume your information is already leaked. And I say that because sometimes companies have breaches and they have leaks and they don't tell us. And sometimes they don't know until years later. And that's how this field works. And so always assume that your information is exposed, has been exposed. And so that way we're always playing defense. We're always making sure that we use 2-factor authentication, that we keep our credit locked down if we get a notification from a company that a breach has happened, or you see suspicious activity. So just go ahead and I tell people to lock down your credit as a way to be very precautious and protect that, because that's important. Because once somebody starts making purchases on your behalf for you, it costs about $40,000 for a lawyer to go in and work that out. And that it doesn't guarantee that the lawyer is going to be able to remove all of the charges. It's just meaning that you can get to a point where you have your identity again, so that you can become, you can be who you were initially. So just remember, it's harder to gain your identity once you have lost it in the digital world. So always play good cyber defense, and always assume your information is already out there.
Dr. Nobles, let me reiterate something there. You said two-factor authentication. Touch on that and exactly what that means for folks that may not be aware.
Okay, so I have Facebook. And so when I log on, the day when I came to my computer and I logged on Facebook, what happened? I entered my name and my password. And what happened? A code came to my phone. that code I needed on my phone, I needed to put back into the inquiry from Facebook on my computer. I did that and it gave me access to my account. That's two-factor. It's a two-factor inquiry to make me authenticate who I am, because I got it set up so that the code comes to my phone. And so by doing so, once I made that last authentication, Facebook was good at knowing that's Calvin accessing his account.
Okay, very good, very good. Well, listen, I'm keeping an eye on the clock here. We promised to get everybody out of here, over the next few minutes or so, but I do want to jump to our final slide here and just give each of our panelists an opportunity to share a closing thought. And Ed, if it's okay, I'm actually going to start with you, man. You join the fold here, and thank you for being in the back back office, helping us out with some of the Q&A around things. But take 30 seconds to introduce yourself to all of our scholars that are joining, and then maybe share a closing thought, man, something that they need.
Yeah.
And then if it's okay, we'll go in order. Dr. Nobles will go with you, Dion, and then Nicole will let you bring us home.
Yeah, absolutely. So apologies for being late. I had a couple other meetings I had to tend to, but I'm Ed Sheltons, work alongside Dion and Nicole, managing the social media portfolio at Wells Fargo. So all of our platforms, we see a big Wells Fargo banner. I'm partly responsible for what goes on there. So that's what I do. I think closing thoughts, I think there was a very good question in the chat around what particular courses or emphasis training courses folks interested in social media should do. If it was up to me personally, I would really look at Facebook Ads Manager. I would look at Photoshop or something equivalent to that. Both free courses that you can sort of look up and have a bit of a play around. I'd also look at copywriting. That's hugely important when it comes to sort of the fundamentals of social media. And another thing I'd look at would be a free course around a content management tool, like a Sprinkler, for example. All of those courses you can find for free, and all of them would look very, very good on your LinkedIn profile once you completed them. So good luck to everyone, and look forward to connecting with you on LinkedIn.
Hey, Ed, thanks a million. And we dropped his information there into the chat. So let's stay connected, Ed. Good pieces there. Dr. Nobles, please.
Yes, my piece here is that for social media, just take time to make sure what you're submitting and what you're posting on social media is what you want to be reflective of you. Because when you put it out there, there's no way of getting it back. There's no way of retrieving it. So just remember, be cautious of what you put out there and what you want that information to represent.
Outstanding, outstanding. Dr. Nobles, thanks again. And I'm assuming it's okay for the scholars to follow up with you after the broadcast and get connected on LinkedIn?
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, outstanding. Mr. Dion Galloway, AKA Ones. We're gonna put you on next. MJ Ones.
You're killing me, Dewey. You're killing me. So I will say, when it comes to social media, just like positions in general, your career in general, think outside the box. Be creative as well as be careful. Think about how social media can impact your present as well as your future. These are all things that can lead to a great career, but could also hurt your career. Could improve your growth in terms of social media, your presence, but it can also hurt your presence. And then think about how you can also impact technology as we advance. So just some things to consider as you grow into adulthood.
So Dion, you touched on earlier the milk crate challenge, which many folks may be familiar with, that's gone viral in given areas. Again, I mean, is it value added? This is a follow-up question, meant to your closing thought, but is it value added to do things along those lines? Hey, it's a chance it may go viral. I may get a lot of love from it, but is the risk worth the reward on that one, man?
This particular item is more of a physical risk.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Not necessarily just. You're right. Not necessarily just impacting social media. So some of these challenges are dangerous, which could be like if you do the milk crate challenge, what are your decision-making skills like? It could be turned around by an employer or people that follow you on social media. They're questioning the decisions that you're making now. Is like maybe you've made some questionable decisions in the past. So you may be having fun, but other people may be looking at it in a different nature. So
Okay.
just something to be mindful of.
So that's that whole continuum there. So Dion, thank you for that. Perfectly okay for scholars to connect with you via LinkedIn, continue the conversation.
Oh, for sure, for sure. If you need anything or I can help you in any way, just yeah, feel free to reach out.
Outstanding. And we did have someone that said, hey, what is the Milk Crate Challenge? We'll ask you to do some independent study relative to that one. Just do a fast Google search or look on any of your social media channels. There was a piece that ran in the Post about it earlier this week as well. To the scholar that submitted that question, thank you. Yeah, take a look at that. And I think this will give you some context relative to viral social media postings and things along those lines. Nicole Stevens, bring us home.
No pressure. All right. Good group to follow. My parting wisdom will just be to go for it, right? So that's twofold. One, Ed listed a lot of really great certifications. I would say if you have the option to do an internship or volunteership to get that experience, right, past certifications, so that you can really show real life examples to future employers, go ahead and go for it, right? Don't be afraid to ask people for internships or volunteer opportunities. That's how I got my first internship. I emailed a speaker who came to our school and I was like, hey, do you guys do internships? And he was like, no. And I was like, could you? And he's like, okay.
Sure.
So just don't be afraid to go for it. And the other part of that is using LinkedIn, right? So don't be afraid to follow companies and comment on their content if they're a dream company of yours, or reach out to people and say, hey, I'm a student at XYZ. I'd love to learn about what you do. I literally got a message from one of you about 10 minutes ago, super well written, saying, I'd love to learn more about social. Do you have 10 minutes to connect, with their availability next week? Super well done. Don't be afraid to do things like that.
Very good. Obviously, that young scholar must be from UGA. Must be.
Go Dogs.
There you go. There you go. Football season is right around the corner. Hey, listen, I'm going to give my closing thought, and then we're going to go to our final reminders around things. And I'm going to quote my buddy Gary Sims. And Gary is a great partner of ours, formerly with our firm at Wells Fargo, now doing great work in the cyberspace over with Walmart. Small firm. Some you guys may or may not have heard of it before, but Gary's a great partner. And I literally wrote it down in this think before you post. I can hear him saying it now. Think before you post. Is it worth it? Is what you're doing going to add value and celebrate others? And if so, then consider it. But if not, and it's going to in any way demean or disparage someone else, it's not worth it. So think before you post is what I will hold on to as the action item from there. So, well, scholars, again, as we continue here with our last couple of items, you'll see on the next slide. And again, let me also just again salute all of our wonderful panelists. Panelists, you all delivered 10 times out of 10. So thank you so much for the great information that you shared there. Hey, as we move on to the last couple of items here, some very, very quick reminders. Again, you'll see on the screen now on the next slide, the breakout for our feedback. Go ahead and take a screen grab of this. This will take you again over directly to that survey. Again, Barbara works really, really hard on making these events great for you all. And so please give us feedback. We're interested in hearing from you all in those kinds of areas relative to the things that you enjoyed today, and also help us to refine our processes. You know, we're getting down to the end. This is webinar either number 9 or 10 of the year. And so we've only got a couple of these left to go between now and the end of the year, but we're also interested in new topics potentially that we can bring in for 2022. So please give us feedback on things that we need to be thinking about in those kinds of areas. Along those lines, the next 2 slides will just talk a little bit about Beyond College. So this is kind of our just placement here. So the series is continuing on. And as we touched on the next slide, you'll see everything we've covered off on. You know, we've had discussions about graduate school. We've talked about the leadership brand. We've talked about resume writing. We've talked about interviewing skills, of course, money management 101, and also budgeting, and also topics that we've had around entrepreneurship. So all of those are available on demand for you. We've covered off on salary versus value earlier this summer. Obviously spent some time talking about our careers and internship discussion that took place last month, and then now digital natives. So we've completed all of those, as you'll see on the next slide. Well, we've got 3 to go. We're going to have a great discussion that's going to be coming up around student debt for us in September. We're also going to be talking about, during Get Smart About Credit Month, building responsible credit and why credit matters. So please come join us in October for that session. And then we'll end the year with mentors and sponsors. We've got some great partners from across the firm that are going to be coming off on the importance of building mentors and sponsors, and adding those folks to your personal board of directors, as the team likes to say around things. So last two slides here, then we'll get you home for the evening. From a resources perspective, don't forget, you can connect on and with our university programs team. This is a great place to learn about career opportunities. And again, maybe you're interested in cybersecurity. Maybe you're interested in learning more about, risk and management and things along those lines. Or maybe you're interested in a career in the investment bank or in marketing or social media or other kinds of areas. Jump onto our university programs channel, and you can learn more about some of the opportunities that are available from there. Talent community, another great place. This is the spot to learn about all kinds of opportunities that are available. So please make sure that you jump on and join the talent community. And we're going to send you information from there from our human resources team relative to career opportunities and other resources that you can hold on to as you're kind of building and developing your career and the next phase of things that you're doing from an academic perspective. Huge shout out to TFS, Tuition Funding Sources, a wonderful aggregator that's going to give you great information about scholarships. I mean, thousands and thousands and thousands of scholarships and millions upon millions of dollars that are available through Tuition Funding Sources. So please get connected with TFS and learn more about the great resources there. And as we mentioned before, the Beyond College webinar series. And please make sure that you're accessing those webinars and of course the playback of all of them, and share the information with others. Again, use those hashtags that we referenced a little bit earlier to share the information with others that you think may benefit from it. And again, of course, be sure to shout out all of our wonderful panelists. Maybe you did a screen grab. Maybe we'll do that now. I'll ask all our panelists to come online here for a minute. Scholars, we'll give you all a chance to get a screen grab here of the wonderful panel in case there's something you want us to throw on social media. So we'll smile for the cameras here. All right. It always seems like it's an hour whenever you do that, but there was your chance to grab a social media and throw something on some of your handles, and that mentioned certainly our firm and the great presenters here for today. All right. With that said, as we go to our last slide here, I simply want to thank all of our panelists for the great information. Certainly want to thank Nita and the team from APIA Scholars. APIA Scholars has been doing an amazing job hosting this platform for us the entire year. So Nita, want to thank you, want to thank Nicole, want to thank Noel, want to thank Melissa, want to thank Sham and the entire team back there in DC for helping us out. And I mentioned her a couple of times already, but Barbara Scotland, another great partner of ours from Wells Fargo, and our meeting and events team that helps to make these great events happen. So, hey, join us again next month. We'll be back on September the 23rd, 4 p.m. kickoff for a discussion around success strategies for managing student debt. We'll be excited to hear from Sylvia Jones and from Casey Galindo and the team. And these are individuals that have, my goodness, I can't say the number of years, but lots of years of experience around student debt and things along those lines. And so if this is a topic that you think would be of benefit to you, please come join us and go ahead and share the information with others. Thanks again, everybody, for being on with us today. Don't forget to get social with us using our wonderful hashtags there. Thanks for taking some time to be with us today. If you have any follow-up questions around any of the things that we've touched on, do not hesitate to contact us, and we'll be happy to share any information that we can.